Hi, Oscar.
Hello.
So, who is your neighbor?
Dennis and Levi.
So, what does it mean to be a neighbor?
Well, the neighbor is supposed to be like to have a neighbor is friendship.
Okay, and when is a time that you've been a good neighbor?
Like I helped. Well,
You helped.
I don't know.
When is a time that you've been a good neighbor?
Where is mother and father?
Oh, to make my new friend when I moved in.
To make a new friend when you moved in? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Rod, who is your neighbor?
My neighbor is every person in the world that may come across my path. Red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in His sight. Jesus loves all the people in the world.
Okay, what does a neighbor look like?
Neighbor looks like just what I said. Young, old, rich, poor, average, superior, whatever.
Okay, what does it mean to be a neighbor?
It means to go the second mile. It means to do more than just say hi and goodbye. It means to get involved in somebody's life, to help them as best you can by the grace of God and for His glory.
And what is a time that you have been a good neighbor?
I've been a good neighbor. I'm trying to, you want a specific answer?
Yes, please.
I'm trying to think of all the occasions. Recently, I went all the way to the hospital in Salem last Friday to help with a little boy who was having surgery. And I drove the car, and I stayed with the family, and I brought them home, and it was all a blessing because it's better to give than it is to receive.
Well, thank you, Rod.
You're welcome.
All right, hi, Xavier.
Hi.
Who is your neighbor?
My neighbor is anybody that I know that is blessed.
And then what does it mean to be a neighbor?
What does it mean to be a neighbor? I suppose means being friendly, courteous, loving toward people that you're not, that you do know.
Okay, and when is the time that you've been a good neighbor?
I suppose there have been times at work where people have complimented me on good jobs I've done. I suppose that qualify.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Jim, who is your neighbor?
Who is my neighbor?
Yeah.
Ava.
Ava's your neighbor? What does it mean to be a neighbor?
To take care of her.
To take care of her? So when is a time that you've been a good neighbor?
When?
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
So who is your neighbor?
Oscar.
Oscar's your neighbor? What does it mean to be a neighbor?
You have to be nice to each other and care for each other.
Okay, and when's a time that you've been a good neighbor?
I helped him get home in the dark.
You did?
But
All right, thank you. Hi, Jocelyn.
Hi.
So who is your neighbor?
Ryan.
So what does it mean to be a neighbor?
To help them and be nice.
So when is a time that you've been a good neighbor?
When I helped Ryan in his garden.
All right, hi, Brayden.
Hi.
Who is your neighbor?
Travis and
So what does it mean to be a neighbor?
you have to be. You have to be kind to one another and try and help each other whenever possible.
And when is the time that you've been a good neighbor?
I've been a good neighbor by
He looks like a bunny.
carrying him into his house when he got stung by bees.
Thank you. Oh my God. Hi, Nicole. So who is your neighbor?
My neighbors Ryan and Leah.
Okay, and what does it mean to be a neighbor?
I think being a good neighbor is looking out for their home and making sure everything's good.
Okay, and what's an example of the time that you've been a good neighbor?
I called Leah and let her know that she left her water on for like 4 hours.
Oh, wow, that is good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Hi, Brooklyn.
Hi.
So who's your neighbor?
Ryan.
And what does it mean to be a neighbor?
Whatever stuff is possible you like, you can get it.
All right, and what's the time that you've been a good neighbor?
Happy.
Happy? Thank you.
Thought about these. This is hard.
Okay, now do it.
Why do we put people on the
Who's
spot?
your
like
neighbor?
this?
You guys should try again.
Who's your neighbor?
Who's my neighbor? My neighbors are the people that I'm around.
What does it mean to be a neighbor?
What does it mean to do a neighbor?
What's it mean to be a neighbor? To be a neighbor is to care about the people that are neighbors to me.
When have you been a good neighbor?
What have you been a good neighbor?
When have I been? The other day I walked some of my neighbors to the bus stop because their mom had to go to work.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Who is your neighbor?
Who is your neighbor?
My neighbor is somebody that I'm around.
What does it mean to be a neighbor?
What does it mean to do a neighbor?
It means to me to pay attention to what's happening with them and to care about them and to help them if I can.
Okay. When is a time that you've been a good neighbor?
When is the time you've been a good neighbor?
Well, every Wednesday night I walk Oscar home in the dark because I want him to be safe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.